to everyone. And so I want you to understand this. I see things a little differently. Okay, so understand, you might not agree with me. You might agree with me when we start talking about God and talking about ministry. I believe God has called us all. I think that is what the Great Commission is all about. I think that God is called, no matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're, a pastor or a youth pastor, or you play the piano, whatever your title is or not a title is, understand that I believe God has called us all. He's giving us this thing of going and sharing about the good news, sharing about his love. And I think we miss that. I think we sit around and we kind of talk about the sense of this, of sitting down and thinking God, well, I don't hear his voice, I don't hear him calling me, and everything like that. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have you've heard or you felt the calling of God calling you to do a certain ministry in your church? Give me a thumbs up if that's the case. Okay. For me, I'm going to tell you mine. I was about 6 or 7 years old. I was watching TV, and I literally verbally heard a voice tell me that I was watching actually Sesame Street, okay? And I was watching these kids, and I heard this voice that said, "You are going to be ministering to these," and it scared me. And so I literally looked at the screen again, and I heard that voice again. And I yelled for my mom, and I said, "Mom, come here." My mom didn't come here. And so this is back when we didn't have remotes, so you had to go and turn the knob on the TV, okay? If you remember those times, you had to turn the knob. It was really staticky. You turn it down. So I turned the TV down, and I stare at the TV, and I hear this voice that says, "You are going to be ministering to these." And still to today, I believe that was God telling me that I was going to be ministering to kids. I truly believe that. And so it's one of those that I just felt like that that God was really sitting down and talking to me. I felt like God was setting and telling me even at an early age. So to say that, I think God can call you. I think God can verbally call you. I think God can put that feeling on the inside. The Holy Spirit can work through you and know that that's your ministry. But also, I think too many times that we sit on the sidelines waiting for that voice, waiting for that call, and there are needs across our church that never get filled. And I think this is the way I've always felt. If you see a need, you need to fill a need. And until that need is filled, and that need, you're filling that need, God might push you to another need or another ministry, but you are ministering wherever you feel that need. So if it's feeding the homeless, if it's sitting down and greeting people, if it's doing you're watching kids that are in the toddler or the nursery, it doesn't matter. I think we have to get into our frame that no matter what we are ministers. We might not be on the pulpit like your pastor, but we are ministers. And until we get that kind of ingrained in us, I think we're going to miss what God really has for us. So I want you to understand, don't sit and wait for God's calling. I think we're going to miss a lot of God's blessings in that process. And so for me, I knew I was going to work for kids. And when that opportunity came, I was ready to jump in. I literally, when I first started working in kids ministries, I was taking up offering in kids ministries. And so the pastor at the time said, "Hey, I got one job for you. Can you take up the offering?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And so I decided to take up offering. And that's been over 20 something years ago that my little teenage self was sitting down, coming up with a creative lesson to sit down and talk about ministry and talk about giving your all in offering. So it's like I said, I think you have to see that need, and there are needs, and we have to be able to share that need. and be able to do that. But let me share somebody with you. I want to share a gentleman that I know that really inspired me, and his name is Bill Wilson. And his picture's up on the screen. You'll see Bill. Bill is out of New York. Okay. Now, if you do not know who Bill Wilson is, listen, you need to go look up Bill Wilson. You need to go read his story. You need to see what he is doing in the lives of kids and families in New York. Okay. Bill started at 12 years old. His mom set him on a park bench. Okay. He set him on a park bench and said, I will be back. I'll be back to pick you up. Bill sat on that bench 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Bill never left that bench at 12 years old. He was waiting on his mom. Now, first off, that's just flat out sad, okay? That's just flat out sad. But Bill sat down on that bench, and he did not leave that bench at 12 years old. He was waiting for his mom to sit down and pick him up from that park bench. His mom never showed up, okay? His mama never showed up. And so a man was going to the hospital to visit his son, and saw little Bill at 12 years old and said, hey, are you okay? And Bill was like, I'm waiting for my mom. My mom has never showed up. And this gentleman got him some food, and he took him to a camp, a Bible camp, and paid his way. And Bill, during that week, Bill had no clothes, understand? Bill had nothing. And he sat on the back row by himself and everything like that. And during the time, the pastor had called, and he said, hey, if you want to pray for Jesus to come into your heart. And so Bill, he went down to the front of the church, and he went to pray. As he looked across everybody there praying, nobody came up to pray with Bill. All the adults, all the leaders, all the other kids were praying with everybody else, but they never came up to Bill. And Bill looked around, and he said, I guess it's because I smell. And his prayer went like this: Lord, he goes, nobody will pray for me. My mama walked out on me. Nobody wants me. But if you want me, I'm here, and I'm giving myself to you. That was a 12-year-old kid who did that. Now, fast forward years upon years now, Bill started a ministry called Metro Kids, and Metro Kids was going out doing bus ministries, and they would set down tarps on the ground and do all kinds of little Bible schools with them in their neighborhood. And he reaches millions and millions of families across the world now through Metro Kids Ministries. And here's what he said. I knew Bill, and I still talk to Bill on occasions. And one thing, when he talked to me, he said, if you see a need, you feel a need. You don't let that need go unfilled, because there's somebody needing something, and you are a person that can sit down and feel that need. You can feel that need. And so I've held on to that for over 25 years now, that I've held on to what he said that night when we were talking. There's a need, and we need to fill that need. There are kids that are hurting, and somebody's got to reach them, and it should be somebody in the church, because listen, if somebody doesn't do it in the church, somebody outside the church is going to do it. And that's scary to me. That's really scary to me, because listen, we've got to start facing facts that are going on right now. The church tends to turn their head a little bit and not really pay attention, because sometimes we don't want to put ourselves into situations because we feel like, well, maybe that's not the church's responsibility. Let me tell you about a local school right down the street from us. There's in the class, there's about, I think, 21 kids in the class. Out of that 21, there are 13 girls in that class. Out of those 13 girls, one is straight. 12 are lesbians, gay, however you want to say it. And they went to this one girl who is straight, who goes to church, who believes in Christ. And they went up to her and said this: isn't it great to be a straight person? And laughed at her. Now, I'm telling you, that's what our kids are going through. So listen, if we see a need and we don't feel that need, then somebody else is going to feel that need, and they will take them away from what God has got intended for them. And so kids ministries and your calling, whether you feel like you've heard the calling or not, or whether you saw the need and you jumped into it, we have a ministry that is in front of us. And as ministers, we should sit down and jump head first and do everything we can to sit down and minister to them. Now, Bill is such an amazing person, and he will tell you of the little child that you see in the picture. That is an adopted mom of this little boy. This little boy, his bus captain, they would go and pick up kids. And one week they went by and they didn't see the little boy come out, and so they asked the kids and they said, we hadn't seen him. Another week went by and they didn't find him. And so the bus captain got really concerned, and he goes, hold on. He just takes another time and he goes to the little apartment where this child lives. He knocks on the door, guys. He knocks and knocks and knocks, and he hears something, and he calls out the little boy's name. And the little boy opens the door, and he says, he calls his name, and he says, you haven't been to Bible school, you haven't been on the bus, are you okay? And he could tell that he was really dirty. And so he walked in, and his parents had walked out on this little boy. This little boy was eating cereal boxes, was eating a cereal box. Guys, that's uncalled for. But that's what Bill's ministry is all about. He saw a need, and now 50 years later, he's still feeling that need. And he will say, this is my ministry. God didn't call me to this ministry. I saw a need and I filled the ministry. I filled that need, and this is my ministry. And there's stories upon stories. There was one of his bus captains went to pick up a family, they didn't show up. And the police had called the bus captain like a week later, and he said, I need you to come down to the office. And they went down and they took him down to the morgue. And one of the kids that had passed away had been eaten up by rats, and his parents had thrown him into the trash can like a piece of trash. Listen, we are facing this every day. It might not be our next door neighbor. It might not, but our kids are facing something, and there is a huge need. And you guys, every single one of you it's a need, and we need to fill it. And we need to fill it. And we need to stop waiting for God to go, hey, I need you to go do this. We need to sit down and open our eyes and take the blinders off and see the need and go fill it. Now, let me keep going because my time will run out quick. And I encourage you, go and check out Bill Wilson. He's an amazing guy, loves God, got an incredible story. He was doing some ministry. Some guys came in and beat him with a brick. He almost died during one of his Bible schools that he was holding on with kids. I mean, it's incredible, okay? So you've got to go and learn about Bill Wilson. He is just an amazing person. So let's keep going, and let me share this next one with you. So this is what I said. It said, let me ask you this, is what is ministry? And so if you were to go in and look at the definition talks about being a minister, that it's really kind of high level type stuff in a sense. But I found this definition. I think this is the best one. It says in Christianity, ministry is an activity carried out by Christians to express or to spread their faith, the prototype being the Great Commission. And I think that's ministry. And if we're doing that, if we're sitting down and doing that, we are ministers, okay? We're ministers. You don't need a degree to go do that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I had a confrontation with a pastor here in our state because he lied to me, and I caught him in a lie. And I'm like, dude, there's no way in the world I would follow you. And there's some people I would see out on the feeding the homeless, I would follow a whole lot quicker than I would follow this gentleman. And we're still trying to work this out. And it wasn't right. But in that same sense, it doesn't matter who you are or what you are. If you are sitting down and sharing God's love and spreading the gospel and sharing the good news, you are a minister. So receive that, okay? Receive that. Don't sit down and think you're any less than anybody in the church. And first off, especially in kids ministries, if you're in kids ministries, youth ministries, listen, I know because I've been in it, and people look down upon and go, well, you just do kids ministries. It's not that big of a deal. Or you do youth ministries. It's not that big of a deal. No, it is a big deal, because the lives that you're touching today is what's going to change tomorrow. Okay. And so we have to sit down and grab a hold of that what we do is vitally important. Even if nobody else sees it, understand it's vitally important to God. God smiles upon people like you who have sat down, saw a need, heard the call, and started ministering to kids in whatever way that you do. So let me ask you this. We're going to kind of just go down the road. Tell me what you do in ministry at your church. Somebody go ahead, and then somebody else can go, and let's see if we can go through everybody.
I guess I'll go first.
Go for it.
I'm part of the youth department, so I'm supposed to help the youth leader organize programs for the youth in general.
Awesome.
I'm also I just been appointed as a prayer coordinator, so I just pray with people every Thursday morning.
Awesome.
So
awesome. That's great, Daniel. Listen, that's vitally important. Okay, programs, pray. Those things are major. It's what programs attract your youth. Okay. You understand the programs that you do, your age, you have something very vitally that you can pull in for the ministry. That's great. That is fantastic. Who's next? Don't be shy.
I'll go next.
Go, Joan.
I'm part of the Pathfinder and Sabbath School Ministries.
Awesome. A huge ministry. Those both are huge in
Yes,
the church. That's great. Is there a certain age group you're doing with those?
With Sabbath School, I tend to lean towards the teenagers, like early teens, and the youth.
Okay.
With Pathfinder, I've done adventurers in the past, and I'm just doing Pathfinders now.
Awesome. That's fantastic. What a great ministry. What a great ministry. And you're a minister. Receive that, Joan. You are a minister. You are very important. Who else?
I'm Michelle Edwards, and I'm the Children's Ministries Coordinator at the Faith Assembly Adventist Church.
Okay, great. So you handle it all. Where are you from, Michelle?
I am from the Caribbean, Jamaica.
Okay, great, fantastic. Thank you for joining us. What a huge chore to oversee everything. And when you have everything underneath you, there's a lot of pressure on you. So that is great. I commend you, and you're a minister of the gospel. You are touching lives. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. Who else wants to share?
I just want to say I'm from Jamaica, but I'm currently at the Faith Assembly Adventist Church.
Okay, where's that at?
Okay, this is in Fayetteville, Georgia.
Okay, Fayetteville. Okay,
okay.
Fayetteville. I know Fayetteville. All right. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. Who else?
My name is Liz.
Hi, Liz.
I am originally from Venezuela, but I am helping in a church here in Tennessee. It's called Living Hope St. Elmo Church as a teacher for the cradle crawl and the kindergarten.
Oh, fantastic. You got the early age. Fantastic. Yeah. Listen, that's huge. That is huge, Liz. I'm telling you, don't get disheartened in it, because sometimes it's a very thankless job, but don't get tired of it. That is a vital role. Listen, there are moms and dads that depend on you, that they can sit down and be able to hear the message peacefully and knowing and trusting that you're taking care of their kids. That's amazing. I believe me, it's a huge thing, huge thing. Thank you, Liz. Who else? Who's next?
Hi, I'm Fatima, and I work with the Cartersville SDA Church in Cartersville, Georgia. And I work with the youth, the early teens, young youth. And last summer, we had a fantastic vacation Bible school, thus the hat.
Very good. Thank you, Tina. Awesome. Vacation Bible School is amazing. Listen, I say it this week, that Vacation Bible School is the best week of the year. I think it's some of the times that I know many kids that have come and given their life to Christ because of Vacation Bible School. So I hear it. Listen, you go to any conference and many people will tell you Vacation Bible School is dead. And I just don't believe that. I think it's a great way to get kids in and even kids who don't go to church in to do great. Awesome. Thank you, Tina. Who else? Anybody else want to do it?
My name is Eunjung. Yeah, I'm also going to the Living Hope Church, the Saint Elmo in the Tennessee area. I originally coming from Korea, but I'm here now. But I'm kind of confused. This is my first time attending this seminar. So I also didn't mean to attend. I think this room. I think I was interested about teaching student because I'm assistant of my primary class. But God somehow put me in this room, so I think I need to learn something about leadership.
Well, you know what? Maybe it's good for you. You never know. It might just light your fire a little bit to even do more.
Yeah,
but thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do. I'm sure Linda can be able to help get you into your correct class.
Do you want us to move you?
Is it too late? Maybe I can go next time, or if you.
Yeah, just leave it, like leave your NAD 2 in front of your name, and the next time they'll get you in the right spot.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. Anybody else want to share? Go for it. Go for it. Is it Maxine?
Yes, this is Maxine.
Hi, Maxine.
Hi. I've been going here for quite a while. I think this is my 3rd or 4th year coming here. I am an art teacher at my church as well as Pathfinder counselor. So I'm just here to get ideas on how to be more engaging with the children. The children already like me as it is, but I want to be more like not just cool, but spiritually cool, I guess.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Well, you're a leader. That's the thing. And leadership is influence. And you have influence with those that are underneath you. And that's a huge responsibility, even at your age. And that's a great task that you've jumped into. And that's awesome. So and I think you're right on it. There's some great leadership classes that are going to continue throughout the tonight and tomorrow that will be a great need. So keep influencing those kids. I'm telling you, if we don't grab them now, and it's going to be people like you and like yourself, Maxine, that is going to make that difference. And I truly believe that. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay,
my name is
go for it.
Andrea, and I am the children's ministry coordinator at my church. I also teach kindergarten and primary class.
Awesome. Where are you from, Andrea?
We're in Kennesaw, in Georgia.
Okay, great, fabulous. That's a growing area. You're one of the ones that's over everything. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. I'm proud of you guys. So let me keep going, and then we can come back to you after we get to the end. I like hearing where you guys are from and what you're doing, because it kind of gives us even more and just gives us insight on what's going on in ministry. So we know that ministry is whatever we're doing is ministry. So let's take the next step. Let's just take the next step, and let me share the screen, and let me go to the next screen, and let me read what John 14 or 15 16 says. And it says, You didn't choose me, I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask for using my name. And I put that up there because you are a leader. You have been chosen. Listen, I know without a doubt, I have no doubts at all that you guys are here because you're leaders, and you have chose to do something that many have turned their face against. But you are a leader. And in leadership, sometimes leadership is difficult. And I'll tell you a story. When I first went to Lawrenceville, Georgia, I had interviewed at this church. It's a large church. And it was growing, and they had went through some difficulties with the previous children's pastor. And I had interviewed at the church, and honestly, I turned it down, didn't like it. I had actually accepted another position down in, Mableton area. And when I accepted it, I started to walk out of that pastor's house because we were meeting in the house, and God did this. I'm telling you, God stopped me. I couldn't open the door of his house. I couldn't get out of the door. It wasn't locked. It wasn't anything. I was trying to get out of the door. And during that time, God was speaking to me and saying, this is not the place, Darren. This is not the place. And they had a school. I mean, it's going to be great for my kids. I was so excited. I'm like, yes, this is it. You know, it's going to be a great time. And for our family, we can all be in like one place, and they can go to, a Christian school. What an amazing thing. And when I started going, I couldn't open the door. And my wife's like, open the door. Stop being silly. And I'm like, I can't open the door. And she said, and this is my wife. My wife is good at this. She said, God just told you this wasn't the place, right? And I said, yes. As soon as I said yes, the door opened. And I turned around, shut the door, went back to pastor, apologized, said, listen, God just told me this is not the place. I'm sorry. I will help you find somebody, but I can't go. And so I went back to Lawrenceville and said, okay, God told me this is where I need to be. And my first midweek service, we had all the kids in all their different classes and everything like that. And a guy came up to me, a parent came up to me, and he said, you have a leader here, and she will absolutely rip everybody. She will tear everybody down and everything like that. And then the pastor said, you've got a young lady named Janet. She is going to be the thorn in your side and everything like that. And I said, okay, fine, whatever. I kind of blew it off because I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. So that first midweek service, guys, I'm sitting in the gym, our rooms are like surrounding the gym. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that kind of setup. And I hear this woman yelling. I mean, yelling, okay? And I'm like, what is she doing? Who is that? And I look over, and it's Janet yelling at one of our parents. And so I grab my wife's hand. I mean, I literally grab her hand with a death grip, and we run over to Janet. And I say, Janet, I go, room. And so I apologized to the parent. I said, I'll talk to you soon. And I went in, and I had to have this major conversation with Janet. Now, Janet, I mean, I was mad. I'd be honest with you. I was mad because as a leader, that's not the way we act. As a leader in ministry, that's not the way we act. Even though inside we might want to act that way, especially when we're dealing with parents and dealing with kids. I get it. And Janet, I ripped her in the name of Jesus. Okay. That's probably the easiest way to say it. It's like, you can't do that. So Janet got mad at me that day, and Janet never came back. Okay. Well, I can't say never. A week passed. I called her like a few days later, and I said, Janet, this is Pastor Darren, wanted to let you know I love you. I go, understand what we talked about. It's between you and I. It goes to nobody else. But understand, you can't treat people that way. Understand, I still want you on our team, but I just understand we had to handle this. So 2 weeks passed, Janet didn't show. 3 weeks passed, Janet didn't show. And so finally, I call her husband. I said, how's Janet? He goes, she's mad at you. And I said, okay. I go, is she ever going to talk to me again? And he goes, I don't know. And so I just went over to her house, and I literally sat outside her house, and she came in, and I followed her. I said, Janet, we need to talk. And I said, so why are you mad at me? And she goes, because you're right. And I said, oh, hold on. What did you say? She goes, you're right. And I laughed, and I said, Janet, listen, because I'm right doesn't mean you need to be mad at me. Let's go. Let's move on. I need you on my team. And listen, that was one of the first things I did when I went. And it about 6 months ago, because a pastor friend of ours at the same church had passed away down in Cooper City, Florida. And so she drove from Georgia down, and I saw her, and I said, Janet, so how are you doing? We sat beside each other, and I said, you're still at Lawrenceville, aren't you? And she goes, yep. And I go, you're still doing kids ministries? Yep. And I said, she goes, listen, she goes, when you jumped on me, I wanted to absolutely just strangle you. But I could tell that you loved me and you wanted me to be a better person. And that's leadership. And understand, Janet had been doing this attitude thing for years before I even got there. And I don't know if it would ever change, but her husband will tell you, when you did that, you changed her as a person. She's a different mom. She's a different wife. She's just a total different person. And so it's amazing as a leader what we get to do. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's really hard. Ministry is really hard. But sometimes we just, we have to take those hard steps. And it's in every ministry that way. You will be shocked in that sense of ministry. So let me go over a couple things with you. I want you to just take a look at, and let's take a look at these. And as a leader, you need to be confident in who you are, he or she is in Christ. Now, I want you to be confident, guys. I want you to be confident in what Scripture says, but also who you are as a person and doing the ministry that you feel like you're called to, or you're feeling that need of. And so be confident in that. Psalm says it pretty easily. It says this, it says, what time am I afraid? Or it says, what time am I afraid of? I have confidence in putting my trust and reliance in you. So we have to just rest assured, God's got this. He has opened a door. You saw a need. You stepped in. God is going to take care of it. We just have to have faith. We have to have confidence that he's going to do that. Also, you need to be humble. Hold on. Humble. Can I say that again? Humble. It is easy not to be humble these days. And we need to be humble in ministry. And we need to humble ourselves before God and understand God is still on the throne and God is in control, not us. Okay? It's not us. Here, hold on a second. I want to come back to you a minute. Look at me a second. Listen, I was in ministry at a church before Lawrenceville that was named Buford. And the pastor there was a good man. He was a good man, but he was driven on numbers. And if you work for a pastor who is driven on numbers, understand everything you do is the numbers that you have. Now, he wants good things, but it was really driven on numbers. And we just couldn't figure it out. He wanted us to be this. He wanted us to be this. He wanted us to have what this ministry has and everything like that. And I just said this. I said, I can't do it. This is not who I am. This is not who I am. And I went to meet with a team member of mine. Understand your team is valuable. The team that you work for, the team that you have underneath you, that team is your family. And so a gentleman named Matt, that I know, I said, can you have supper tonight? I really need to talk to you. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm going to turn my resignation in. I'm tired of trying to do what everybody else does and not doing what God has called us to do. And I remember him. He said, Darren, he goes, you go tell pastor, you're going to do what God's called us to do, not what everybody else has done. And I took his advice and went into the pastor the next day. And I said, Pastor, I love you. And I go, I have two things. if you don't like the first thing, I'll give you my second thing. And he goes, well, what's the first thing? And I said, we're not going to do ministry like everybody else around us is doing. We're not going to be what everybody else is going and doing. We're going to be what God has called us to do. And he looked at me and he said, what's the second thing? And I said, you tell me if you agree with the first thing. And he said, I agree with the first thing. And he said, what was the second thing? And I said, if you didn't agree with the first thing, I was going to resign. And he said, he goes, no, go do what God's called you to do to our ministry here. And understand, when I took that calling and I saw that, we grew from running like 30 kids in ministry, guys. I mean, literally like 30 kids. And we literally went to like 275 kids in 2 months. It was unbelievable, okay? But we knew it was God. I mean, I'm just knowing it was a God thing, okay? And the church grew dramatically. And the pastor was like, he goes, well, what did you do? And I said, you just let us do what God called us to do and not what everybody else did. So as a leader, sometimes you just got to kind of humble yourself. Sometimes you just got to stand strong. And you've got to have confidence that what God has spoke to you, you believe that and you do that. Because sometimes, listen, we can follow curriculum all day long, but sometimes God just speaks to you and speaks to your heart and says, hey, we need to go a different direction this week. You need to talk about this. And we need to do that. And we need to be okay with doing that, because that's difficult sometimes to sit down and do. And so we need to be able to sit down and do that and feel that. Let's go back to it. I want to finish this and let's talk about, I want you to be enthusiastic. If you can't tell, I'm enthusiastic about ministry. You need to be excited about ministry, okay? If you're not excited about the ministry that you're involved in, get out, find another one that you can be excited with. But you need to be excited about ministry. Listen, it doesn't matter if you're cleaning bathrooms. I've done that. Listen, I don't ask anybody in my ministry to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And I'll tell you a story about that in just a few minutes. But I need you to be enthusiastic. I want you to be strong character. You got to have strong character traits. You need to let your integrity shine. Listen, the outside world is looking for you to fail. They want you to fail. And as a Christian, we have to stand even taller. So we need to have good, strong character qualities. We need to be willing to forgive. We need to be willing to sit down and forgive our team members, forgive parents, forgive kids, but also forgive our pastor and forgive the community. We also need to be good listeners. That is huge. As a leader, you need to listen. You need to listen to your team, listen to your parents, and listen to your kids. And then also never accept the status quo. And understand that, listen, don't get settled that this is the best that's ever going to be. God has got better. God has got bigger things, okay? Never accept that it's just, this is how it's going to be. And last but not least is I want you to pray. I want you to sit down and I want you to pray. And those things are huge, guys, as a leader, for you, as me, and God ministry and me, these things that make me stand out above everybody else. And listen, you have to sit down and you go over those things. You go over being strong character, showing forgiveness, being enthusiastic about ministry, and everything like that. You need to have those things. Get excited about ministry. Get excited about what God is doing in the kids' lives. Get excited about, you're sitting down and rocking a baby, or you're sitting down and reading a little Bible story that they may understand or they may not understand. You are putting God's word in, and understand, as a leader, that is vital. But you got to get excited about that, because listen, you are planting the seeds. And listen, sometimes we plant seeds, we don't get to see it grow, especially in kids ministries and even in youth ministries a lot. We don't get to see our seeds grow a lot of times. And so sometimes it's discouraging, because we don't get to see what maybe the adults see, or maybe the older teenagers are doing, because we're still planting those seeds. We're planting those nuggets into our kids. Because listen, again, if somebody doesn't do it, then, if we don't do it, somebody else will. And so we have to be able to sit down and do that. We got to be good listeners. We can't accept the status quo. We need to sit down and do those things. Now, listen, it as God ministry in me, and I want you to focus on me. In my first 10 years of ministry, I missed my kids' lives. Okay, I missed my kids growing up. I mean, when I say the first 10 years of my kids' lives, I didn't really get to experience that much because I was so in depth in ministry. If you don't know this, I'm a workaholic. Okay, I don't mind work. Work doesn't bother me. And so I work, but you've got to take care of yourself and you got to take care of your family. That's vitally important. And so in that, I was always making sure my kids were modeled what leadership is. And my kids today are leaders, and what they're doing, they're in leadership. And so one time we were doing a kids revival. I don't know if you guys have ever done a kids revival. I've done a kids revival, and we called it Kids Quake. Kids Quake was shaking your world for the kingdom of God. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to do a multi-day nightly event, have like some special guests come in, do some different ways to reach our kids and to reach the community kids. And so it's just, we did VBS that year too, but we just want to do something a little different on top of it as a kind of finalizing our summer out. And I had a guy in, he's an amazing guy, amazing minister, has an incredible ministry. And so at the end of the night, we were sweeping the floor. And so I had a couple leaders out, and so I was sweeping the floor. And I brought the mop out and I started mopping, and he came over to me and he said, "Why are you mopping the floor for?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Why are you mopping the floor? You've got somebody else that can do that that's lower than you." And I was like, oh, no. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen that way. Okay. I said, first off, there's nobody lower than me. I might be above them in leadership, but I am no better than they are. I can fail just as quick as anybody else. So it doesn't happen that way. My type of leadership is I model, and I don't expect my leaders to do something that I wouldn't do myself. If a toilet needs to be clean, I'm going to go clean the toilet, because I want my kids when they come in to have a clean toilet. I want my parents when they come in and go, "Hey, that's a clean toilet in there." I take pride in that. I didn't mind that. So when I say being enthusiastic and loving ministry and whatever part that is that you do, be excited about it, because it makes a difference in people's lives. You might not see it, you might not hear it or anything like that, but you are making a difference. You are making a huge difference. God has called you. You have either stepped into a need, or you have heard the call, or you've seen the call, or you've felt the call, and you know what ministry is because you're a minister. Whatever you're doing, you are a minister. Maybe it doesn't have pastor in front of your name or anything like that, but you are a minister. So receive that you are a minister. And then from there, understand you are a leader above everything else, and there's expectations. And as that leader, you want to be the best that you can be. And as we continue our leadership classes, those classes are going to continue to build throughout these next 4 or 5 classes. You're going to continue to have leadership built. And listen, ministry, in a sense, rises and falls on leadership. So let's go, for example, does everybody know what Hillsong is? Hillsong music, Hillsong church. You guys are familiar with that? I'm sure you probably have sung some of their songs and things like that. Now, you've heard all the things that are coming out of the ministry there. You've heard, terrible things from, having a casting couch for their worship team to pastor hiding children abuse and things like that. Their churches are dying. I mean, there's a couple of their churches here in the United States have already closed down because of those things. Ministries rise and fall on leadership. And so even more so as a minister, and especially in kids ministries, there's a little bit more on our shoulders. And so understand that last one where I said you need to pray, understand you need to pray, and you need to pray a lot. You need to bathe your ministry in prayer. You need to have your team praying for you and praying for the kids and praying for the ministry, because listen, Satan is trying his best to pull that apart, especially when you're doing something good. I know the last leadership class I'm going to be talking about is team building. and building your team. And one of those I will share about how we had this major thing and how just the enemy was just pulling every which way to tear us down. And I'll share more about that. But I encourage you to understand that, you know what, God is still on the throne. And you are ministers, and you mean so much to God. Believe me that you mean so much. And whatever area that you're doing, whether you think it's big or small, it's huge in God's eyes. Okay, it's huge in God's eyes. Let's take a couple of questions. I know we got just a few minutes. We can take a couple of questions, and then we will. I'll give you my information. I'll pop it up on the screen so you guys can write it down. If you have questions afterwards, you can email me. Please feel free to email me. You can yell at me, go, I don't agree with you. However, we'll talk it out, discuss it out, or how we did things. Whatever you bring it on. That's what my email is for. I'm more than happy to sit down and talk to you and answer any questions that you might not get answered during the weekend. Who has a question? Anybody have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Go for it, Michelle.
Yes, you mentioned the 10 years of ministry. You missed out on your kids' life, and I was just wondering, how did that impact your kids now? How old are they, and how?
My kids. One of them's 25 and one's 24. And I took the second part of their lives and did everything I could to make sure. Listen, it didn't really mess them up in a sense that, they ran from church or didn't believe in God. It messed me up because I didn't take care of my family. I was taking care of everybody else's family, and I didn't take care of my own family. And so I just had a self-check. It was a moment that one of my team members pulled me inside and said, listen, you need to go home. You're always here. And I said, no, I need to get these things done. They said, no, you need to go. I'm telling you, you need to go. And I was like, okay, I will go. And lo and behold, when I got home, my wife goes, listen, she goes, I'm just going to be honest with you. If you don't start giving us time, we're leaving. And it was quite interesting, that whole thing. But it was one of those days that, as a leader, it goes, I had to go, gosh, I was leading everybody else because I wasn't leading my own family. And so I made sure to take time, no matter how busy we are, because here's the thing. Everybody says they want 200 kids. They want 100 kids. I wish my ministry was as big as their ministry. If you haven't got into those shoes, you don't understand how big those shoes are and what it consists of. I've always said, man, I wish I had their ministry. God, give me what they've given, what you've given them. And when I got it, I was like, God, won't you take it back? This is a whole lot. And but I know God didn't give me more than I can handle. It was just I sometimes take a lot of things on myself when I should give it out to my team and trust my team. And so it helped me to spend time with my kids, but also it helped me to put a lot more trust into my team. And I'll talk about that in our team building one, that I sat down and started trusting my team a whole lot more. It wasn't that I didn't trust them, but I felt like as the pastor, I needed to always be there, and I didn't need to always be there. And listen, when I said I need to spend time with my family, my team was like, oh, we got it covered. Don't worry about it. And they took care of it. So it came out really nice. It came out really nice. My kids, they love God, and they go to church. Each of them go to a different church, but they love God. And it probably, I'm a proud dad, because there's things I go, man, I probably failed at as a dad, and not mimicking the best way. But God had his hand on them, and again, they're leaders, and where even at their work, where they work at, they're leaders even at their young age, in management positions and things like that are really unheard of for what they're doing in their lives. So, anybody else got a question? Go for it.
Yeah, so I have a question. When you mentioned that finally when you were in that church and they said, go with whatever God is asking you to do, and you went from, I think you said 30 or 50 kids up to 275. What is something you changed in the approach? Sure. Or what is something you did? I know this is not a formula for anybody, but what changes did you notice you have to do?
So I will tell you a couple of things. One, we started a bus ministry. Now the bus ministry only brought in like 40 or 50 kids. So we did start a bus ministry. But what it changed was the attitude. And so we started doing a lot more, making sure we take care of our people. So like our kids, we would take care of our kids' birthday. So if our kids had a birthday, we would take one of our mascot characters and we would go visit them during the week. And so what we saw was a lot of the families didn't come to church, but maybe, Sally came to church and we came and we wanted to wish Sally a happy birthday. And we brought her a little gift. It was like a little $4 or $5 gift that we put. So we brought it to them and said, happy birthday. And we weren't there maybe 5 or 10 minutes. But what we saw was that we just started showing this whole caring, that we care. We weren't just here to put a service on or a show on. Because I kind of felt that's what we were doing. We were putting a big production on, but we didn't really have any meat or love behind it. And so we just started loving. So that was one thing that we did right off the bat. We started doing that. We also put kids in ministries, and I'll share about that during our team building and more in depth. But we took anybody in kindergarten up to 5th grade that was in our ministries at the time. We ran them through discipleship that was good for their age, and we let them do ministry. So our kindergartners were greeters. They would pass out name tags. They would sit down and greet along with we had our senior adults that helped us out. So they would stand aside and greet kids as they're coming into our ministry. So different things like that. I mean, it was really a lot of different things. So I couldn't say just one thing made the difference, but a lot of different things that we changed within about a 2 or 3, 4 week period that the team just jumped on that we had, and we gained a lot more. It just all fell into place, and we grew astronomically at that time. Any other questions? We're good. We're good. Okay. So again, I want to throw up my just my information. If I'm going to put this PowerPoint into the little folder that you guys can download as well, so that way you can have it. But I'll throw my information up so that you can have that, and that way we're good there. And let me pull it back here. There we go. And that way you can write down my email, anything like that you could set down and do. And you can have that. Let me move. I got boxes everywhere going on here. Let's see if I can move this box. There we go. There we go. And so that's a way to get a hold of me. I run 2 businesses right now. One is our science shows, and then also I have a printing company. So again, as I told you, I was a workaholic. I am a workaholic, but it does well for me. So, but those 2 things are great. They're great ministry tools. If you're looking into that, feel free to contact me. My last class will be the last one of the day. We'll be talking about team building, as some of you are mentioning team building earlier. So feel free to jump in on that, because we'll talk about building your team and all that. So let me go ahead and pull that. I think you should have got that. I'll put it all in on that box, so you'll be able to download the whole PowerPoint and have that available for you if you want to use it for your team and do that. Any other questions? I don't want to make sure everybody's had a chance to ask questions. Anybody want to say what ministry you're involved in? Anybody want to say what ministry you're involved in? Some of y'all didn't tell me. Go for it.
Hi.
Go for it.
My name is Marcelo. I'm from the Brazilian church.
Oh, great.
I've been involved in the Pathfinders for 37 years.
Oh, awesome.
Children's ministry, I started when I was 14. I started drawing for the kids from 7 to 9 years old, and then started to, teach. They asked for help. Very big church, 2 classes for kids. So we had 2 sessions.
Awesome. Great. So, awesome.
Yeah.
That's
now
awesome,
I do.
Marcelo.
Yeah, now I do Pathfinders. I help at the Brazilian church, master guides at the Hispanic church, instructions and stuff. And I'm doing teenagers um, class, which is very complex sometimes.
Awesome, awesome. That's
But
great. That's
it's a lot
great.
of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing. That's
You're welcome.
cool. Very cool. Very, very cool. Who else? Who else? Some of y'all didn't tell me. Who else wants to say? Go for it.
Okay, I'll say, so I'm from Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada, like about an hour from Toronto. And I'm the
Okay.
children's ministry leader, but I also teach juniors class and I do adventures as well. Like I teach grade 1 and then Pathfinders grade 9. So it's like some big jumps. So I get a little bit of everything. And it's a big blessing. So kids all over.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. So my time is up. The next one's about to start. I know I'm running a little late. So thank you guys for coming in. Again, feel free to email me and I'm going to turn it back over to Miss Linda. Linda, thank you so much for your help. And thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you at the very end. We'll see you at the very end. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you so much. You did an awesome job. It was very
very
interesting.
much.
Thank you. So everybody that wants to stay for the next session, feel free just to stay where you are. The one lady that wanted to go to NAD 2, you may just want to exit out, close, leave the room, and then Samantha will move you to where you want to be. But everybody else just stay put, and we'll start up at, you got a little bit of a break. You have until 7:30 if you want to get up and walk around a little bit. Sarah Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, what's your last name?
Edwards.
Okay, you may want to go in and add that so I know to check you off the list so I'll know what your last name is.
Okay, will do.
Thank you so much.